Hi, chess players. I am back in Texas after having wrapped up my 2-month road tour of America. The highlight of it was for sure stopping by Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I quickly fell in love with the city and its chess players. I've had a really good streak in tournament play. I've won 6 out of my last 7 games. The one game I lost was to a national master, the South Dakota state champion. And I was pretty bummed, to be honest. I went in thinking that I had a good chance. I'm at the top of my game, but I severely underestimated how good the South Dakota champion was at the game of chess. And I didn't get over it until he was kind enough to give me a free mini lesson. And then I learned just how far out of my league this master was. So with us today, we have Nels Truelson. Nels, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, nice to
Hey,
be here.
I absolutely was blown away over how you brushed me off of the chessboard. And I didn't make peace with it until you showed me game after game of you pushing other masters off the chessboard as well. So, yeah, tell us about your style of play and how you became that good at strangling people.
Okay, I guess it has a lot to do. I point to my childhood. It's a common thing among chess coaches. You're always hearing them talk about the value of losing. That because you learn things when you lose. Well, that was demonstrated to me in a very convincing manner by my older brother, who was not only the chess champion of our family, but chess champion of the neighborhood, the school, whatever. He was just known as hey, the guy who just beat everybody else at pretty much all board games, and at chess he was the one who first started picking up the trophies in that. He taught me chess when I was 5 and he was 7, and we continued to play very regularly. Probably I would say on every other day we would have a chess session in which we would maybe play 3 or 4 games, and we continued this for a period of many years. He was better than me. He was significantly better than me. Maybe this was exaggerated a little bit because our styles were so close. I learned from him, so I learned his style. He was just better at each of those aspects of my style. So he did a lot of winning. In fact, more winning than most people would have thought comfortable. I played him for about 9 years without winning or drawing even a single game. So there we went. Do the math, literally thousands of games. We went, and finally, when I was 14, I won a game. A couple weeks later, I won again, and within a few months, I was winning the majority. At the time, he was Minnesota State High School champion. He was ranked 13th in the country in the 16 and under list, and so he was basically the best player his age in the upper Midwest, except he couldn't beat his little brother anymore. And I owed it to again that old principle about, well, what do you learn when you lose? As I've always told my students, all you really know when you lose is that your opponent made worse moves than you. But or I'm sorry, when you win, you only know that your opponent made worse moves than you. But when you lose, there's always at least one lesson in there, and usually multiple lessons. So he got me on track of playing just a very slow, steady, mostly positional game. He would just grind me down, and even when I survived tactically to the end games, if he had some slight edge, he would always grind me down over and over and over again. And so I discovered through this procedure thousands and thousands of ways to lose, which amazingly also transfers over to learning thousands of ways to win. And that was my beginnings in chess. I had kind of slow, methodical style. I wasn't in any hurry to get the win over the board. Hey, if it appeared for itself, if kingside attack was going to work, and quickly, if that's what the position called for, fine. But I was very patient and just allowing my opponents to manifest their their imperfection, as we all have, and
I
wait
found
for
that
them to
out the
make
hard way.
yeah,
I
for
gave
make
you a
wait for them to make
tempo.
the mistakes.
possibly two, and that's all you needed to convert that in game into a win.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really shocked me was your backwards bishop f4 to d2 move to go to a5 to go to c7. That just wrecked the alignment of my pieces.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you always have to be looking for, are my pieces performing their most efficient functions right now where they are? Which of my pieces may be the most misplaced? And it may be a piece which seems to be doing something, kind of superficially. It may, oh, look, it's guarding this or it's attacking that. It seems to be doing something. I don't care what it's doing. There still may be a better thing for that piece to do, something, some preferred function. So that's what I'm always looking for.
Right. All right. So two quick comments on getting better at chess and the continual improvement process. I believe that the secret to getting great at chess, part number one, you have to love it. Because if you love it, then you do it automatically. I had a master put it to me this way. He said if I got banned from chess, I would still study tactics every single day because I love it that much. And the second thing, I think it requires some stubbornness. The reason I am where I'm at today, right, is I took my loss after loss after loss in a small town Missouri chess club. But the reason why I'm at where I'm at is I didn't give up. I took the beatings and kept learning. And I've had to jump into a bigger pond to take more beatings. And that's essentially why I went to South Dakota, to take a beating. So I got my money's worth out of that.
Yeah, talent in the absence of stubbornness will only get you so far. That's absolutely true.
All right, excellent. So you have 10 rules for chess players.
Well, yeah, that's
Nels is,
what
yeah,
I mean, some of the rules are kind of almost the same rules, just looking at it a different way, but they're pretty much the same thing. And
and
I should,
as a coach, I'm a broken record sometimes, right? It's really good, I think, to repeat and drill it. Some things can never be said too much.
right.
But yeah, walk us through those 10 rules
Okay.
summed up.
Well, the first rule is the of course the rule that's all dominant. It's my unified field theory of chess, if you will. Um, and Einstein maybe never quite perfected his unified field theory in physics, but I don't know. I think I hit on something there. And so my first rule is just it says what the game is about. Colin, making your pieces do, and I put that in quotation marks because it's a little unclear to a lot of people at first. Making your pieces do more than your opponent's pieces. Okay, it sounds pretty simple, maybe even oversimplified, but the fact is, you can, when you go back at any position and evaluating who stands better and if so, how much better, you can also, if the question is ever posed to you, well, why? Why is white better in that position? Why does black have at least a draw or something? Well, you can always break it down to that one basic principle. You can explain everything about who's got the better game and why, based on that principle. And of course, you first have to get a few definitions clarified for that. When we're talking about pieces, we're talking about pieces, not pawns. Pawns don't count when you're talking about that particular rule. Now, pawns are obviously not irrelevant in that rule, but you see, they are a supporting cast. They are not up for the Oscar for best piece in any given game. Yeah, I've never said it that way before, but it just kind of came to me. Yeah, we're interested in the drama of what our pieces are doing and how to enhance them. Pawns play the role of either enhancing what your pieces are doing or constricting what your opponent's pieces are doing. In some cases, those pawns may be a negative overall for you. In fact, you'd rather that pawn was completely had disappeared from the board. You'd be in better off shape, but still, then making that pawn, getting rid of that pawn, is part of the way of enhancing the activity of your pieces. So that, yeah, I could just sit there and go up on with hundreds and thousands of examples of this, but whether you're talking about late in an endgame, even a pure piece endgame, just trying to like those positions that I had mentioned about king, rook, and bishop versus king and rook. They're fascinating, simple endgames and incredibly complex positions. You can still all break it down to look at the totality, whose pieces are doing more, and how do we make that relative position do better. Making a move that makes your pieces do more may not be a good move. It may be an awful move if it also improves the activity of your opponent's pieces by a greater margin. It's always the relative scope of the one to the other. And there's an aspect of it, you're always looking at future too. You have the present value and the future value of pieces, and that all kind of ties in. But that's the principle that everything kind of comes back to. So whenever I finally throw that, after we've been talking about a position with some students, and I throw that question out there, well, we've all agreed so-and-so is better. They say, well, why is he better? And that's always the same answer. Principle number one. Okay. Number two, I do that. This others are a lot quicker. Stop trying to win the same game twice, and that's what you see about so many up and coming but inexperienced players. They're finding moves which they're thinking in terms of good moves as well. This can win me something extra, and this can that doesn't necessarily make it say it's getting you closer to winning the game. It may involve certain other risks. If you have a comfortable material lead, if you're up a rook and, hey, I can win a rook up, right? Well, what's the first thing you got to do? Get the damn queens off the board, right? How can I lose it? That's what you have to be doing. You have to be thinking
I think
about.
you'll enjoy this, Nels, but this is currently what I'm working on, Technique in Chess by Mark Dravotsky and author Yusupov.
Uh-huh.
And I've recognized that in my own games, that I get this +1 position, and I've done an abysmal job of converting those into wins. But it was my realization that, okay, this is an art in chess that I haven't even studied. Maybe most players don't study how to handle that much better position. So I'm hyper focusing on that. And also, I think you'll be glad to see this.
Yay!
Now, I'm quite lost in it, right? I'm just digging through it, but I've begun working through it. And I'm excited to see where understanding the in-game deeper affects my chess overall.
Yeah, and that book, very rigorous treatment of rook endgames. It's
Right.
wonderful job.
Rook in Games by Vasily Smyslov and Gregory Levenfish.
Mhm.
And I couldn't order that book, right, without also ordering In-Game Virtuoso. It just seemed
I'm
like they
sure
had to
that
come in a pair.
I haven't seen that one, but I'm sure that's got much of the same good stuff as Smithlov's other book. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, continue.
Okay. My third principle is remember that half of the moves in the game are your opponents, and you don't get to decide what any of those moves are. I mean, that's, again, inexperienced players. You're constantly explaining to you why they're made a particular move. They say, well, you see, because then when he does this, then I do that, and then this whole series of things, he's got the game all planned out, how he's going to win it. Except, what if the opponent doesn't do the moves that he wants them to move? We always need to strive for spending close to half the time that we're analyzing a position on what our opponent's best moves are, not just ours, because obviously, that's part of the puzzle, figuring out what your opponent's moves are. Half of the moves are made by your opponent. If how can you look at the game realistically and evaluate things realistically if you're not spending lots of time just trying to evaluate your opponent's very best moves? Putting yourself in your opponent's seat. It's hard to do. People get all excited about their own threats and this and that. Well, but half the moves out there, you got to look at those. You at least try to put more time in those. I don't think any of us do actually put half of our time in that. We have our weaknesses, but you gotta do what you can to look at your opponent's best moves always, not moves you just would like him to play. And then several rules in a row really kind of go along the same theme. Number 4 is your opponent is making many mistakes that you aren't seeing, and so are you. And that's first of all recognizing the nature of the game. It's a game of errors. That's what that's inescapable. You run the world champion matches through Stockfish, and they're just finding really effectively what are blunders left and right from their perspective, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand that no, you're not playing this game perfectly, and neither is the opponent, and you've just got to maximize the results by recognizing that, trying to find to identify your opponent's mistakes more often, and then do something about it, and try to minimize yours. They're still going to happen, but this is one of the issues too, where it's being a master, having a higher rating than your opponent has this natural advantage. I mean, I couldn't begin to count the number of times where I made a move over the board. Perhaps I was in time pressure or whatever, and I determined that it was that was a very poor move for whatever reason. It gives up something significant, and my opponent is just completely flabbergasted by this. Obviously, sees what potentially, well, they can win a pawn or this that, but they start with the assumption that, well, this master must know what he's doing, so he's not offering this pawn out there for free. And the incredible percentage of times where they don't jump on it, they won't take that freebie, because they're just giving too much weight to your rating, and they think, well, he's not going to make blunders like that. Yes, he is.
Reputation has certainly saved me multiple times.
Yeah,
and I think that proves that there's a practical competitive element of chess, right? Too many of us boil it down to just purely a science, but no, there's some psychology in it too.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Too many. I know for me personally, I tend to fall into the trap of believing my opponent when he plays a move that I didn't think he could get away with. My first reaction is always, I missed something. But no, even the best of us miss things.
And that's interesting, and I hear that so often when for me it's generally been the opposite. I mean, at least okay, when I'm playing most games, and even if I'm playing, just say someone of an equivalent rating, when they see them play a move on the board, which I didn't spend that much time on, because my instincts told me, that's really not worth it. That's not good. Instead of experiencing any fear, shock, oh no, and having some dreaded sense of foreboding that, oh no, what did I miss? My first instinct is to feel joy and excitement. Oh no, that wasn't one of the moves that I thought was good. Let me find out what's wrong with it. I assume first at the beginning, at least. I mean, and you want to be skeptical about it for everybody's moves, both sides' moves. But I don't, just because the move is a surprise to me, because I didn't expect it, because I didn't look at it really carefully. I start out by, usually trusting my instincts, and then trying to find out why my instincts said that move was wrong, and assuming that there's something deeper in there that my opponent didn't see that was wrong with that move. And boy, a whole lot of times that's exactly the case. That's what happens.
I think the good decision, right, is to pause and figure out what's going on before you proceed. If
exactly.
time allots it.
Never assume it's suddenly bad for you, right? Just because you didn't expect it.
This is something I preach a lot about to my students, developing thought discipline. When calculating lines, are you leading with the most forcing moves first, or are you calculating a little bit of irrelevant lines? And I've learned that I have to control the thoughts that I think during a game. And perhaps a part of that is training myself, as you said, instead of being pessimistic whenever my opponent plays that hidden move. Perhaps I can, because I've developed an ability that's sufficient that I don't miss too many one movers. So yeah, I can shift that with some work into, okay, my opponent's done something wrong as the gut reaction.
In the long run, I mean, you're going to be better off being a chess optimist, because hey, if when it turns out you're wrong, well, that's great. Well, then I have learned something. I will now look. Why did I misread that? Why did I have that wrong? Gee, I'll know that about myself, and be less likely to make that mistake in the future. But yeah, being optimistic about your instincts, your initial instincts. I mean, that's the only how I mean, that's the, you're doing that's your methodology for getting better. You're taking risks and trying to figure out what's best. You don't start out with the assumption that your opponent knows better than you. That's kind of a
Given
losing process.
given your track record, Nels, I'm going to accept that advice. So you have 14 South Dakota state champion titles, numerous Minnesota state championship titles.
Well,
How many in Minnesota?
Minnesota, they had the Open Championship and
Right.
and then the close, the playoff. So yeah, well, I have right. I have multiple things there too. Yeah, I mean
And then
that's maybe just from having hung around long enough in the game. I don't know.
see a
But
lot of people hang around and don't
yeah,
have
well, that was Mark
the
Twain's whole thing about to what do you owe your longevity? And he said, to the fact that I haven't died yet. So think the same way in chess. To what do you owe all the winning that you have done over the years? Well, I haven't died. I'm still playing. So
all right. And the crown jewel of your achievement, you went 9-0 in a Minnesota state championship,
oh
Minnesota
yeah, that
Open.
was here was the cover of my Minnesota Chess Journal, which they put that they usually don't use this for a cover. They at the time Minnesota Chess Journal each year they would put the picture of the champion of the one was the state champion that year. And this one though they put the cross table immediately under it for that playoff cross table where uh, I played 7 masters and two guys in the 2100s, 4 in the 200s, and 3 in the 2300s, and I went 9-0
Yeah.
with nary a
Well,
draw. That was so. Yeah, so the caption next to my picture was "We believe, Nels. We believe." So, I always
yeah.
told people
And
that I was capable of doing something like that, even if I didn't believe it. So,
and you played a field of 21 to 2300 players, correct?
yes,
And went 9-0.
yeah,
And
that was fun. Most of those
and you
wins
told
were
me
end game wins.
something very wise afterwards. You said that you knew that that was your crown jewel moment and you
Yeah,
were content with
well,
relaxing
that
a little bit after chess.
right. It allowed me to embrace the game with just more fun because I mean, you just thought the odds. You think of the odds of that happening again are so astronomically low or something that you're not going to even think about. So I just kind of start with the assumption. Well, I have that was my peak. I reached my peak, and if you when you can accept that and have no disappointment over not doing better than that in the future, it frees you up. For me, it freed me up to have a little more fun and joy when I play the game. I just don't take it so seriously because hey, because that was it. That was the summit of my success, and I'm yeah, like I said, like you said, I'm happy with that. So
Right. And I believe you told me you recommend to your students to find a reasonable goal that's attainable with a lot of blood and sweat, and then to
right.
be content once you grab it.
Right.
And
You make something that is possible to get there. It may not be easy, but
right,
if you try to if you keep on remeasuring and revamping your goals, and if you achieve one, you say, well, now I've got to get here. Now, well, then you end up in this vicious circle of you're never going to be happy, right?
and how I
May as well.
attempt to help.
It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. You may as well be happy playing. You may as well be able to
Right.
look back at your chess career and say, "Hey, that was pretty good. I like that."
When I get a student that tells me he wants to be 2200 someday and he's dead set on it, what I like to do is to break it down into the steps of achievable goals, taking it 100 points at a time, even. So, okay, you're 1200 currently. I would like for you to be 1400 within a year and then lay out the process to that. And if the student does that, okay, now your next step, 1600. This is the homework to do to get there. And then I see and adjust, okay, do they really want it? Because they might think that they want it, but they don't know what entails to get it. So I try to walk people through that process just one baby step at a time.
Yeah. and helps them be realistic about things too. Then, yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So I think the most impressive thing about you, Nels, is the amount of success you've had in multiple fields. So you were a lawyer and a physics professor, and you mentioned one other notable profession as well.
Well, I'm a biomedical engineer. I don't know what else. I play chess. I don't know what.
Those are just the first things that come to mind, right?
But yeah, you're right. I don't fixate on
Okay.
any one thing in my life. That there's, I never, I never bought into the thing that sometimes you see in the these days in the schools, particularly the public schools. Well, gee, nobody can be good at everything. You just have to find your little niche and just do that and be happy with that. Right? And it seems to encourage people to constrict their goals and not to dream. And how is that going to make the world any better?
If I
So
talk too much about public education, I will get myself in trouble very quickly. But I believe the goal is not to bring a human being to their potential of success, but rather get them to go along with the program.
yeah, yeah, no,
That,
that's right.
that's
Well, because otherwise you are, I mean, you're a cog in the bureaucratic machine. And the first principle of bureaucracy is don't make waves, right? And they don't like, you know, they don't like dealing with anything outside the norm. Yeah, I know if they're well, quite, if they're in this lower percentage on this and that and achievement in this, well, then of course we have the special needs and we do get federal money for that. So great, we can get a bunch of federal money for that. But they're not really giving us so much federal money for gifted students or people who are really achieving this and that. So they're just a pain. We don't want to deal with that. So they'd rather the people not aspire to that. I mean, just look at what the shrinkage of teaching not just advanced placement courses, but so many other things that they could have been doing in high school. They always seem to be looking for ways to constrict. No, we won't. Don't. We don't really need. They don't really need to learn calculus. They don't really need to learn this. They don't need to learn that. And deciding for the students what they really don't need. I mean, and these are teachers with their teaching degrees, and great. That doesn't mean that they're philosophers about what people should know or want to know about and want to achieve in their life. Why should they be part of that decision making process at all? Like that should be up to the students and their families. So anyway,
what I'm really curious, Nels. I feel that everything I have pursued outside of life has impacted my chess game. When I attempted to learn different languages, I felt that I was able to become more flexible when I play chess, for example. So, how did each one of those professions, lawyer, physics professor, biomedical engineer, how did you notice an impact on your game?
well, that's kind of interesting. The first thing, when I was very young, just in my teens, and I was tracking my rating, which they were only redoing rating every 3 months back then. They're publishing the Chess Life, and I noticed that the period in which my rating, while it was generally increasing through that period, the period in which the results were not the best were the summer months. When I wasn't involved in other kinds of studying as much, doing a little more, just playing outside and stuff. And that, yeah, just simply having the mind more active. I thought that just alone, the good exercise of the brain, that was key. And so later on in life, one of the things I've kind of been obsessed with for many decades, really over half a century, is how the aging process affects your brain. Yes, I started getting paranoid about getting senile back when I was 16 because I didn't want to get senile. I really did. That didn't look like fun. And I began studying aspects of that and the demographics of who is less likely to get Alzheimer's or just not retain as much mental acuity. And that's where I came in with my theories. They're not so much theories right now. Now it's largely just proven fact as how the exercise of the brain was just as important as exercise of the body. That people when it comes to physical exertion and working out physically, that's perfectly acceptable. People to get up at 5 a.m. and run around the lake a few times, and oh yeah, no pain, no gain. But it seems to be completely fine and socially acceptable. Well, oh yeah, for your couch potato and you're sitting there eating potato chips, watching Monday Night Football all the time, putting on a few hundred extra pounds. No, we'll shake our finger at that. But it's perfectly acceptable to be lazy mentally. To say, oh, that sounds that. I need a calculator to figure out. Oh, that language in that government spiel. That's who can figure that out. And I never understood that. It would seems to me, and I learned to actually enjoy and find no pain whatsoever with a lot of mental activity. The exercise itself, it maybe the equivalent of the runners, the second wind or second, for your long distance runners, their little high that they get. I loved facing very, very difficult problems, and I would go through solving math problems in my head, just driving down the street or whatever. I love to just think through and come and solve things in my head. So I approached a lot of the academic and quasi-academic professions that I was involved in from that same perspective. You've got to be thinking through this. If you're not doing any real thinking there, then the brain's not getting that much better. To this day, I try to struggle with learning some new languages because that's very, very difficult. When I'm 69 now, and that's it. Your brain isn't very attuned to it. Your left hemisphere isn't cut out to handle all the new languages well. That's great. That means if you force it, you do what you can, even if it takes you longer to master another language. Well, you have to work harder at it. Isn't that a good thing? That's better exercise. Chess itself is probably not as good an exercise right now as it was in my youth, because my youth I had to be bulldoze my way through here with the powers of calculation and everything. Now, unfortunately, I have my instincts, my master's instincts. I just look at a position, I just kind of have a feel for it. Oh yeah, I think this is the direction I should go. That should go. And it's you don't then you're already focusing and you're not doing as much raw calculating, and brain isn't working quite as hard. You're using your knowledge and experience to your advantage, get good results that way. But it's not helping your brain as much as it was in my youth, when I just had to try to power my way through, figure everything out.
One of my core values is the pursuit of excellence in everything that I do. And I think people give up a lot in life when they don't pursue it. I don't have to be great at everything, but I can be a little bit better. And it's worth the pursuit of it instead of foregoing that.
Yeah, it's amazing how much stuff you can still become good at without, you don't have to be great. And that goes back to the chess thing. In fact, it was the person who gave me Stefan Popel. He had actually been Ukrainian champion once. He came to this country, lived in North Dakota then for the last half of his life. But he had a fascinating life, all kinds of issues from there. But as a chess player, yeah, it was just the year he died, he gave me his copy, which he autographed very, very nicely. Little tidbit in there of the Levenfish Smyslov Rook endings there. Anyway, but he was the one who helped me a little bit improving, struggling through my nemesis, which was time trouble. When he famously told me, Truelson, you don't always have to find a great move. Sometimes a good one will do. And that helped release me from there. Hey, there are the practical aspects to chess too. You got that clock ticking away, and sure, you don't always have to find the best move in the board. It's depending on the position.
I see
sometimes
a lot of people stumble with perfectionism. I know that's a big issue that I've had in my chess career. But yeah, a good move played quickly compared to the best move.
Right.
Great. All right. So you mentioned Ukraine. The next step after you achieve excellence, I think the next step is helping the community from the output of your accomplishments. And too many people, right? They engage in the dialogue about what right looks like. And you managed to host a refugee family.
Yeah,
So
there's
tell us how that came about.
well, um, the federal government did everything in its power to make it difficult and try to make me give up in the process, but they did not succeed in that endeavor, and I now have a family of wonderful family of four uh, living with me. I mean, it was I was living alone in my 6 bedroom house, so it's no skin off my back, right? So I got them here, and it was yeah, it's been great. It besides a mother and father, then there's a girl of 12, and they have a son now who's about 18 months now, and it's great having them here. It's great helping to teach them English, and we already the father is working full time, and he's already purchased a car here, and everything's just is going great for them. They are, I mean, and when I think of what was going on before when they were heading to the shelters just about every night with the missiles flying in there, and including with the infant. I mean, you may imagine, and the girl was she was clutching onto the bedpost, crying all the time when this was just happening all the time. So that's not war is not a pleasant thing. Uh,
No.
and it's especially yeah, war like that where it's affecting so many civilians, and also yeah.
And
So
people tend to
I don't
really
know.
get worked up on the topic, but again, who's actually doing anything about it? And
You know,
from my discussion with you, I haven't heard you take, you probably have viewpoints, right? But I haven't heard you take a really strong viewpoint about what others should do. You just stopped in and did something yourself.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's well, okay. First of all, just nobody would ever accuse me of being for the old classic bleeding heart liberal or whatever. There is that but I certainly have sympathy and empathy for people
Right.
who end up in bad straits through no fault of their own. Um, and this actually came in. I don't know if I had ever mentioned this to you about when I was asked on the forums to fill out. Well, why am I going through this? Why am I doing this for this family? And actually, most of the sponsors they help the family along and they do this and that, but they don't have to live. They set them up in another apartment and all that, and they help them get jobs and all that. But they're living in my own, and I'm happy to have them here, and it's I don't I'm fortunate that I don't really consider anything financial burdens. I have everything I need, so I don't worry about any of that. But when it came to answering that question about the why, um, I did a little bit of introspection there, and well, gee, why are you doing this, Truelson? And it took me back to the early '60s, and my first exposure. My father has always had all kinds of music going on, a lot of classical music. He had some folk music, and he had some album with songs by Joan Baez. Uh, Overall, I wasn't any great fan of Joan Baez. Uh, anyway, but our politics probably wouldn't match and everything. But there was one song that really rang so meaningfully to me, and that was "There But for Fortune," was the title of it, and it was just 4 short verses, just followed by kind of the same refrain. And so I mean, it started out, for example, show me the prison, show me the jail, show me the prisoner whose life has gone stale. And then it went to the refrain, and I'll show you, young man, with so many reasons why, there but for fortune go you or I. Okay. Well, of course, that particular verse did nothing to me at all, because, especially putting it in the context of modern days here, if somebody is actually locked up in prison and locked up in jail in this country anyway, it's they probably deserved it. because maybe more than deserve. Maybe because in my mind, there's a lot of people that probably should be locked up in jail which aren't these days. But the song continued then in the second verse. Show me the alley, show me the train, show me the hobo who sleeps out in the rain. And then again, translating to this country, I mean, I think, well, wait, here in San Francisco, where the homeless are filling up the sidewalks, that's because they won't even go in the shelters and they want to go stay out there and defecate in the sidewalks and throw some of the stuff at the passerbyers. And you know, I'm not getting any sympathy, or nobody's really starving in this country unless there's something their own doing in it. The third verse went on. Show me the whiskey stains on the floor. Show me the drunkard as he stumbles out the door. And outside the fact that I'm a teetotaler, which is really has nothing to do with it, I think that everybody who drinks has a drinking problem. That's my own personal crazy thinking. Just ignore that.
I don't
I mean,
think I would trust the person that doesn't.
well, I mean, but I don't see that as, oh, this is, gee, this happened to you in your life because you couldn't help it or something. No, you were the one who, I don't care if your first drinks just because, or just like first time somebody does a shot of heroin, oh, just everybody else was doing it. I don't see that as an excuse. But the fourth and final verse of this song, it just hit me right there. I was born in 1955, and this is only 10 years after the end of World War II. And my father had visited Europe in 1946, and he had all these stories about the buildings, the ruins. I mean, basically, he went out there to East Germany, saw Dresden, he saw what had become of these. And if you're thinking through a lens of personal responsibility, the wars like World War II, I mean, these civilian victims, there's nothing they did that to deserve that. But that's the nature of war, the nature of the beast. It happens in this and that. Anyway, the Ukraine war has turned in to obviously something closer to the World War II invasions and such as anything we've had in modern times. And yeah, I can't. I mean, even and now if you even get more current, this is before since they did that. If you look the more current, the issues in the Gaza Strip, but people can be all kinds of justifications. Hey, well, gee, the people they voted 87% to put Hamas in, the terrorists in there in the first place, and then now these civilians, you can say, well, yeah, you can
These
do anything,
are
right? But
all incredibly nuanced situations,
right,
and I
but
think
World War
people,
II was so rough. I mean, this
yeah,
in the Ukraine thing, I just couldn't. I couldn't just pass it off and say, oh, that's life. That happens. There was something I could do there, and I realistically, just as when I was a kid, and when I heard that final verse, which was I never sang that part, said, "Show me the cities where the bombs had to fall. Show me the ruins of the buildings once so tall." And then it went into the refrain about they're going there but for fortune. And that hit me just as a young kid, just as when I was just between 5 and 10, when I first heard that. Hey, that's right. There but for fortune, but for having grown up, luckily in this great country, that could be me. That could be me. So that's what I put. I put down, gave the little spew about the song I heard back in the city, the emotional effect it had on me then. And they say now suddenly, we have this situation that seems to fit so closely to that. And I said, how could I not help? And that was that.
sometimes I think if you refine your character well enough, the right thing to do isn't really a choice. It's what you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
All right. You're heading to Sydney soon, right? For
Well,
a
not
tennis.
soon. The Australian Open's in January, so that'll yeah, it'll not till January. But yeah,
Right?
I've got a lot of
How
travel. What my I had accumulated when the years I was an attorney for the U.S. Postal Service. I was flying all these getting all these miles for this and that. So I was planning on doing a lot of travel right after I retired, which was in June of 2020. And naturally, well, hey, I was gonna run around and see the world then. Well, it turns out the world didn't want to see me back then. But now I'm gonna try to rectify that, and I'll go to Antarctica where nobody really cares whether you go there because nobody wants to go to Antarctica. But I'll before I'm done, I'll have visited all the 7 continents and seen a lot of other good stuff. But
as a kid, I remember so well all throughout school, I'd just get bored and stare at a map and learn something and wonder what what are things like at this specific area. And yeah, that's crossed my mind visiting Antarctica. But yeah, getting to do that. And I never thought it would come in useful until I became a high school geography teacher. And then I learned that staring at the map was probably way more productive than whatever I was trying to be taught anyway.
yeah. My son, my eldest son, not only was 3 national spelling bees. He nearly won the last. He made the championship around the final 3. But that same year he was also state geography champion. So he had to split his time studying for between the spelling bee and the geography bee. Anyway, yeah. So we homeschooled him, and so I feel part of that.
Right. And
That
100% I
process.
will tell parents that homeschooling is the way to go. You cannot hand your child over to the government and expect a good result. And I could go into this for hours and hours and hours, the horrors that I saw in school as a student and as a teacher. But that's
Yeah, I was
I'm sure I'll
co-founded.
get banned eventually, but I'm gonna enjoy my platform while I have it.
Yeah, yeah, I was co-founder of the Greater Sioux Falls Homeschool Association. We were basically there to provide all kinds of academic opportunities and competitive academic opportunities for the homeschool students. We did the chess teams as well. We were winning all kinds of chess things too.
How would you describe your level of tennis proficiency?
Oh, well, that awful system that they have in tennis. In fact, I mean, basically anything short of the ELO system is a terrible system, right? As far as things, I could never get over how they do, bridge master. How do you become a bridge master? Well, by accumulating enough bridge master points. You mean so you accumulate those points, and then if you live long enough, can't you just accumulate those points? I guess. Anyway, but yeah, but I'm 3.5 in my leagues. At one point, I was 4.0 after I won my league one year 10-0, so they kicked me upstairs. But then after a few years of that, and as I was getting older and getting worse, then they allowed me to go back down to 3.5. But that doesn't mean much. I'm no, I'm just a run-of-the-mill tennis player. Back in the day when I did play in some A tournaments where I got completely clobbered, but B tournaments where I actually managed to make the finals of one of those. I was
Okay. No clue what the rating system is or what the A or B section means.
well, they kind of make it up as they go along. If you look it up under USTA, the USTA, well, they have these. It's supposedly these skill sets that they do, and then if you do this and that, but I mean, it would be the equivalent in
Hmm,
chess. I've said, well, look, you've learned how to mate with a king and a rook, and you've learned how to do this and this and that. So that doesn't necessarily, that doesn't make you
right,
a 1600 rated player or something just because you learn how to mate with a king and a rook.
right. So heartbreak is an essential part of chess. And today I consoled a good buddy of mine, a 1600 that lost to a 1200. And what I told him is that there are many, many different facets of chess. And if someone is slightly worse than you, they can still overcome you in that particular mini battle of the chess game. So when you're facing someone 400 points lower, it's not a guarantee, and it's okay to be 40, 50 moves into a chess game, and the result of the game undecided. I think too many players get discouraged if they take a lower rated player deep into a game. But I think as the higher rated player, what I seek to do is to have faith that, okay, if we play a 60, 70, 80 move chess game, that somewhere in there, I'm going to find a way to come out on top.
Yes, the
And
the median value of your moves should be better than
yeah,
uh than the 1600s. Yeah.
but with chess, I think that chess is very just by nature. And I think for someone to arbitrarily say, okay, you're 1900 rating because you understand this, 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 and you lack this, well, at the end of the day, who's coming away with the point? I think that's what really matters with chess, right?
Yeah.
Win, loss, or draw, and it doesn't, I have in my notes, ugly wins are beautiful wins.
And in fact, nobody ever talks even much about this particular thing. But okay, well, chess, one of the part of the beauty in chess comes in its its duality. Basically, there are two ways you win at chess, and really very distinct ways because of the vulnerable piece, and it makes the game so much more interesting than something like Go and and Scrabble and so many other games. The fact is, two completely different ways to go about winning. You can win with the direct attacks against the vulnerable piece, the king, or through the attrition method, and there's that balance that's going on in the game, and among the better players, the better the player, the more that balance becomes a key. And how people play that balance and use that balance, using what their knowledge of their own skills and the estimation of their opponents as well, and to put that together where they need to move forward in a game with that balance. Because if you throw everything into the game of just into attacking and say no, that's usually just a recipe for losing. As is if I say no, I'm not going to worry about my king safety, but I'm going to make sure I have no double pawns and no, no, sorry, that's not going to work very well either. You have to you have to keep tugging on both sides of that and try to figure out how can I play this where I can make threats going both along both procedures to win, or if we're
Right,
already in a worse position to draw. And
right.
that's yeah, I mean that's part of the game.
I guess one of my rules, if I were to write out a list, is that the chess game is a messy endeavor, and whoever can navigate the mess better can emerge on top. And I think too many players try to take this controlled approach to it when, at the end of the day, embracing the complexities of it and finding a way to come out of that dark forest on top is a worthwhile skill.
Yeah, and I think this is it even translates to just how you handle your openings, especially when you're starting out with learning the game and trying to improve in that. Uh, I mean, that makes perfect sense that you gain a little bit of understanding, read some of Nimzovich's stuff and gain a little bit of understanding of King's Indian attack, King's Indian defense type positions, and because that's great. But to throw all your cards there and decide, well, you see, this is what I'm going to do this game.
Right. I love
these
how you said
are
it. A
some moves
style.
that, regardless of what else happens, these are a couple of moves that I'm going to make either way
Right.
in the early part of the game. I mean,
I love how you said it. A style is a weakness.
yeah,
And
having a style is clearly a weakness. Yeah, and we all suffer that. We all have some weaknesses in that, but
another quote that I like is that strength is the absence of weakness in a particular custom. If there are no major holes in my ability to play a Sicilian Najdorf, I can consider that a strength, the absence of weakness.
yes. And
And
unlike the party in Orwell's 1984, we disagree with the proposition that ignorance is strength. That was one of the party's slogans.
2024, we have to say this, right? It's not implicitly understood.
Yeah.
All right. So I have another theory about chess. I think that even an idiot can get proficient at chess. The reason why it takes 30 minutes to an hour to learn the rules. And after that, you stack on top of your foundation basic knowledge and principles, and then you expand on it and add another layer until you build that tower up as high as you want to build it. And I think for you, it's worthwhile to know that you do have a gift for chess, but you built that and you got there by expanding your mind one step at a time, one endeavor at a time, and by continually never giving up and learning from every loss. So, do you agree with that theory that even an idiot can get proficient at chess?
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, whether you're talking about, yeah,
No, not the
my
definition
definition of
of
idiot, yes, yes, it can, because
right.
I'm always calling everybody idiots. I'm sorry, I'm not always that nice guy, but if you're talking about
That is a service of
idiot
society, and
on the
someone needs to
Stanford
do it.
Binet, if you're the idiot on the Stanford Binet scale, you know, IQs of 40 or lower, that's
Right.
probably
No,
not.
no, but practically using the term.
Yes, yes.
All right. And the tower that you built, we both play and believe in the benefits of blindfolded chess. Now, I consider myself pretty proficient at it. I can play 3 games at one time easily. Well, no, correction, not easily. I can do it, but my game will suffer as I try to recall 3 positions. I'm prone to making a mistake. Now, you've been talking about your slow and gradual decline from,
Yeah.
and you can track this with your record of blindfolded play. So now you're down to a measly 8 games blindfolded at one time.
Well, to be doing it comfortably so that I'm not forgetting the positions or something, right? It's hard for me I can't really guarantee that if I go above more than 8.
Right. But at your prime, you did 20.
Yeah.
All right. So is that not the process that I described of stacking one block on top of another? Because my experience blindfolded chess is first I had to get to know the board that I was playing on, right? I had to know what color every square was. I had to make mental notes and references. Okay, when the knight moves out, he goes to F3. He can then move to E5. The bishop can touch the B5 square. Learning the diagonals, learning the field notes of every single square. And then I was able to play 10 moves and then 20 moves and then a game of chess and then a more proficient game of chess and then add a second board and focus the skill of keeping the notes from game A and game B. So would you say that blindfolded chess is also that analogy of stacking a higher tower?
Okay. I mean, I mean, your approach is a little bit different than mine because I sadly I lacked my confidence, lacked your confidence rather. When I first started blindfolded, I had no idea uh, exactly what I knew I could play one game there because I in my head talking to somebody, I'd go over a game, I could do it all blindfolded, right? The game that I just
Right.
played or was something else. But when I started playing the multiple games, I had no idea what I could do at all. And I just said, well, hey, maybe I should try it, see if I can do this. And I tried it and I could. So that was but I at the time I there wasn't really no goal in it. It was almost curiosity. I was just I was very young then when I was starting this out, and I I was just kind of curious about, well, what can I, because nobody around me could nobody else I knew around me could play more than 5 games or anything like that. So hey, just see what or even that nobody could do that. So I just wanted to see, well, hey, what can I comfortably do?
So here's one thing I'm curious when it comes to chess and memory. It's the chicken or the egg question, right? Is it that by getting better at chess, you're developing at least a memory for chess? Or is it that you have to work to improve your memory to help with your chess?
Okay, well, it can improve your memory. I mean, certainly the exercising it will improve it. I mean, but you can still play chess, but with have a very limited memory and still play. You just can't play as well, I suppose.
Could a chess player train for memory?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's what memory. They've had studies even showing just things. Well, that's one of the reasons why I just learning poetry as a young person in school. It's just memorizing poetry or the Gettysburg Address or things like that. They're good for you. They're really good for you, and they help your brain excel in many other areas other than just raw memory. It's the connections that that you're making, the neural connections that you're making, there's they're not stuck doing that, just doing that same thing, because you add a new neural connection, from neuron A to neuron B. Well, there's all these other neurons which are interconnecting too. There's C and D and E and all in the same territory. And so when you've done that, you've also made connections to these other ones. And it's through the multiple connections and intertwined connections that's where things other than from the very lower forms of life and how their brains, what if you even want to call them brains, figure things out, to becoming to much higher advanced thought. It's in the complexity of all those different connections, and the greater the permutations that can make, and all the different things that you can do by that. It'll help you out in things which, in areas which don't seem to maybe have anything to do with memory, creativity and stuff like that, are also going to be enhanced by just enhancing, creating more of those neural connections. That just all different kinds of judgment and instincts are also developed at the same time that way.
There are a billion different questions that I could ask you about how memory and chess are connected and how to get better at memory. But we'll start moving towards wrapping up. I do have one final question, and that is, what is the South Dakota chess environment like? Personally, I really enjoyed going to South Dakota. I found the people to be incredibly friendly. I found it to be one of the better chess communities that I've ran into on my tour across America. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about South Dakota chess, the Sioux Falls chess environment, and how
Well,
you interact with it, I suppose.
we're still struggling with things a little bit here. There's South Dakota, has a fairly small population. We're only sitting there around 800,000 or so. It's not, and that puts you in a range there where you're often not you're not at the critical mass that you need for
Right.
having certain kind of chess activities and such. And that's I I wish we could do more on that. But growth on those circumstances where you're below critical masses to have this and that, the only way out of it is just through slow growth, and that's what we're working on right now. There's a lot of scholastic activity going on right now in the state, and many scholastic classes, tournaments, things going on there.
Right.
That's
Nels, can
going
you
quite
adjust
well.
your camera ever so
Oh,
slightly? It's
I'm
cutting
sorry.
off. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. This
Better.
this is fine, right? Okay. Yeah,
Right.
Scholastic chess is doing very well in the state, and you always hope that this will translate into to more things with adult chess, but that's not always a guaranteed process. I mean, you need the structure, the activities, the people who are going to do it. I'll just mention one thing. For example, the United States Chess Federation has its role in making things difficult, because they have the whole tournament director program that they have now. They keep on coming up with additional things for tournament director to be certified. Oh, now we got to do this, and now we have to go through our harassment
I
type of
have
thing.
decided that I'm going to let my certification lapse because of the extra layer of BS
Yeah,
added
and
to that.
right, and no, the thing is, if you're in large metropolitan areas where they've got the all kinds of extra people still willing to direct and this and that, even if some people drop out of it, that doesn't maybe that doesn't seem to matter so much to them there. So, but they're not the people who are running USCF are not living in any of these lower population states. That's or municipalities. And they just they're naturally oblivious to their own bureaucratic preferences about how yeah, we sometimes we just want well, just because we can make more rules to do something, we will. It's it's like
I've ran into this in field
politicians
after
are
field,
politicians.
and
They when they're running against an opponent who is, say, an incumbent who hasn't introduced a whole lot of new bills or something, they'll criticize it for that. Well, what have you done? Well, wait, I thought if you all the polls show that there's the vast majority of the country thinks there are too many laws out there. Shouldn't we instead be rewarding the politicians who are leading the fight to appeal laws instead of creating new ones? but I don't see you, pushing for the appeal of all of these laws. You keep on asking for more of them, and it's kind of the same along the same thinking there. Uh, they're they're living in their own little world. It's that's just a hard fight. I don't know where it's all going to end up with, but
At least for me, what I'm choosing to do for the time being is I'm bailing out of that bureaucratic mess, and I'm just trying to take care of the person to my left, to my right. And
yeah.
I'm happier than I've ever been being an entrepreneur. I believe I'm making a bigger impact than I did trying to go through these systems. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it appears to be the way for me.
Yep. Well, it's you got to follow your own instincts in that. No, that's anyway. So I'm trying to stir up more interest in there's one local club that we got going a little bit here, but it's tough. Sioux Falls only has it's the largest city in the state and still only has a population of roughly 180, 190,000 something. Yeah, it's difficult to drum up more interest. It takes a lot of work, but what can you say?
Well, I do recommend stopping by and playing in the tournaments. I had a blast. I found the community very enjoyable. And yeah, it was the highlight of my trip across America. All right, so we'll move towards wrapping things up. Are is there anything that you'd like to say to someone wanting to improve at chess? The youngster that decides they want to be a master someday. What advice would you throw their way? Maybe we've already covered it.
Yeah, I don't know. We probably already covered that. I would
How about anything that you'd like to conclude with in general? Any
I
final
would
thoughts?
I would just suggest that they not put too much emphasis on results that have occurred to date. Uh, that doesn't mean much because those, there's a lot of yeah, they may misread the messages there. That's something may indicate, yeah, they have some talent in this and that, but like I mentioned before, you need a lot more talent to make it up to the higher echelons of that game. So you've got to you need to look at the things a little bit more objectively, and uh, there is no outright formula that's going to guarantee. Hey, what's the line always say? Past results don't always guarantee future, but I don't know. I really have nothing more profound to say than what we've already covered. So
All right. Well, I could talk to you all day, Nels, but I think this is a good place to stop it. So I'm gonna end the stream here and go ahead and hang out for a little bit and we'll talk.
Ryan, you have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming on, Nels.
Okay, bye bye.